The bottom line is you can't wait for the invitation. Nobody's going to amplify your voice if they can't hear it in the first place.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
Game of Her Own listeners, I am so glad you're here. If you are listening when this episode airs, it's the start of the new year. So first things first, may I wish you a happy new year. Now I'm curious, what's on your list for 2022? What do you want to accomplish? The new year is such a great time to hit the reset button, but you know that. You can take a look at your goals from the past year, see how you did. What were your wins? Where did you strike out? Where did you try so hard and put so much effort in, but you failed? And then how do you take those wins and failures from 2021 and turn them into key learnings and use them to your advantage for 2022? While you're looking back, make sure you take a minute to look at your progress. How far have you come? Now, please do not compare yourself to anyone else. That is just my recommendation. Take it or leave it, but I think you should take it. Do not compare yourself to anyone else, except for the 2021 version of you. Look at where you were in January, February, and March of last year, and look where you are now. Look how far you've grown. Look at the goals that you set up for yourself. And even if you missed, you should still see how far you came. And when I say miss, I mean you missed your goal. Like say you set a goal for yourself and you missed it, but you were close compared to where you were the year before. What does that progression look like? What does that growth look like for you? Nobody else, just you. There's so much power in looking at your growth over time and just seeing how you have evolved as a person. So back to your 2022 goals and what's on your list. Have you set your 2022 goals yet? I'm not talking about the department goals that you and your manager agree upon. That's usually before the year starts or whatever your fiscal year is. You should do those too. But I'm talking about your own personal goals. How do you want to grow this year? What do you want to achieve? When December 2022 creeps up on us real quick, like it always does, where do you envision yourself when it comes to your career? Now, everyone is going to have different goals. Your 2022 goals should be unique to you. In today's episode, I want to talk about why you need to use your voice in 2022. I want you to think about this past year and how you used your voice and how you can level up this year. Are there times that you hesitated or silenced yourself because, I don't know, a common example is you felt like you were being bitchy. You didn't want to come off as a bitch. Hopefully there are no children in the car. I am sorry if you have to explain the definition of that word right now. Maybe you can recall a time that you didn't speak up and you immediately felt regret. You know that regret that sticks around long after you missed that opportunity to speak up? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Maybe there's a time that you did. Maybe you're looking back thinking, you know what? If I'm comparing myself today to the old version of me a year ago, I spoke up a lot. Maybe you have some things you want to work on this year, some things you want to fine tune, enhance. I know when I started being better about being very intentional about using my voice and speaking up, which was really difficult for me as an introvert, a people pleaser, a perfectionist. I mean, the list goes on. It was difficult for me to speak up in certain settings because I wanted to do so well that sometimes I silenced myself in fear of messing up. But when I started to speak up, it was awkward. Like, I am a little awkward sometimes. I was just at the pet store and I had a very awkward goodbye with the pet owner who I see all the time. I don't know what my problem was. Like, I don't know. Like, I just couldn't human at that moment. So we've all been there. So maybe you used your voice all the time last year, but you're like, gosh, I stumbled through it. Sometimes my voice cracked. Sometimes I was awkward. Whatever it might be, that's okay. As long as you, or I'm assuming that's why you're listening to this episode, is because you want to take it to the next level this year. So my friends, I want to talk to you about 4 reasons why you want to use your voice in 2022. My hope for you is that this episode not only inspires you, but when things get tough, because listen, using your voice isn't easy. At the end of the day, it's not. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing. If it was easy for everyone to use their voice, there would be no coaches. There would be no managers trying to help you use your voice. It just wouldn't exist. The fact of the matter is, it's not always easy. It does not come natural to some of us. And a lot of us want to use our voice, but it's just, we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. So my goal for you is that this episode inspires you when things get tough. And you can remember these 4 reasons and use them as fuel you need to keep going and pushing through to let your voice be heard. Women in sports and entertainment, we need you. We need your voice to be heard. Let's start with number 1. Having a seat at the table doesn't always mean you have a voice. No one is going to ask you to use your voice. Perhaps your manager may from time to time. For example, one time my manager had to nudge me and say, I need you to speak up in these meetings. Now, looking back, I can make an excuse as to why I did it. It was not the right reason not to use your voice, but I know why I didn't. I was in a subject matter that I wasn't an expert in, and I felt the need to be the expert. So I didn't want to share. Like, that's the perfectionist coming out in me. And that is also the people pleaser coming out in me. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I'm also a recovering perfectionist. We can talk about that at a different time. However, at that point, my boss had to nudge me and tell me to speak up. However, that was not always the case my entire career. There were times where I got into the meetings and then that seemed to be the victory for me. I was like, oh boy, there is so much more work to do when you finally get that seat at the table. The bottom line is you can't wait for the invitation. Nobody's going to amplify your voice if they can't hear it in the first place. So it's up to you to push yourself right on out of your comfort zone and speak up. Even if you're speaking about an unpopular opinion, even if you're the only one, I want you to promise me one thing. Pinky swear? Pinky swear. Remember that using your voice doesn't make you bitchy. I hear that a lot. I hear that I don't want to seem ungrateful. Just promise me when you think that, you can DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn or send me an email. I forgot the traditional way of doing things. I will remind you that you are not being ungrateful for asking for what you want. You're not being bitchy when you're being assertive and other people don't agree with you. Let me tell you this, how others react is not your concern. I have one rule of thumb when it comes to using your voice: treat others as you wish to be treated. Meaning if you're speaking up and doing so with respect and others still do not like what you have to say, you can't let them bring you down. You got to keep moving on. So number 1, do not forget, having a seat at the table doesn't always mean you have a voice. Doesn't mean your voice is going to be automatically heard. Nobody's going to ask you. No one's going to give you the invitation to say what you need to say. It's up to you. So remember that. Number 2, one of the reasons why this year I want you to use your voice whenever you can is the emotion regret. That emotion takes up so much of your energy and you don't have time for that. You are a busy, busy woman. Now, I don't think it's possible to live a life without regret. However, I do believe that when we regret missed opportunities, it eats at us. That feeling of regret seems to be a lot stronger than the regret you feel for Well, not working out for 3 or 4 months. I'm dealing with that right now. Also for another time. Or you regret drinking too much. Or you regret staying up too late, binge watching a show, and then sleeping in, missing an important meeting. Here's the deal. You can easily course correct on those pretty quickly. But when an opportunity to use your voice presents itself and you allow your inner self-doubt, perhaps, to silence you, that regret you feel after is stronger. The thing is, that opportunity might not exist again. It might not come up again. Business moves so quickly. And when you miss that opportunity to use your voice, it's almost like you spend more time dealing with that feeling of regret. It starts to eat at you and it impacts your work. You might not even notice that it's doing that. You start to beat yourself up and your inner mean girl says, see, I told you weren't cut off for this. All right, move over. I'm taking over now. You start to talk to your trusted, colleagues and your friends. I've had people come into my office when I was working for teams and replay situations where they wish that they spoke up. That's taking up energy away from you being a badass. That's taking up energy from you learning and growing. I guess at the end of the day, if you go talk to me or someone and you say, I should have spoke up, next time you're going to speak up, right? So that is helping with your growth. But if you find yourself doing that over and over again, you keep going to that same friend at work and saying the same thing, that's wasting energy that you don't have to waste. Let's think about a time that you do use your voice. Let's say there's 1,000 different scenarios that can come from using your voice, but let's say you speak up in a meeting and talk about something that you see as an opportunity for the organization. Let's just say this one goes really well, but nobody thinks it's the right timing for the organization and they want you to bring it up again in 6 months. How do you feel? What if they said, great idea, it's not for us though? How do you feel? First things first, in both cases, you learned a little bit. Hopefully you asked some clarifying questions, but you learned something in that process. Also, think about the mindset around that. If someone says no after you have spoken your piece and said something, and you get turned down because you don't always win. And win might be a strong word, but I'm going to use it. You don't always win them. You don't win them all. So what happens to your mindset during that time? Take note of it. Are you upset because your idea wasn't accepted and you think it's a great one for the organization? It's going to make them tons of money. Or are you upset because somebody told you no? Are you upset because someone wasn't happy with what you said? Were you looking for validation? So take some time when you start to use your voice or continue to. I know you all are out there doing it. As you continue to, make sure that you take some time to reflect. It could be 5 minutes. I know you've heard me say this before, but if you're new here, I'm going to say it again. There is a mindset download scroll in the show notes right below the episode title. And there's a download for you, 100% free. And you don't need me to help you with it. It's great. And I only say that it's great because I'm repeating what others have told me. So give it a try. It'll help you take a moment of reflection when it comes to mindset. Okay, this leads me right into number 3, momentum. You want to use your voice because what happens? Think about your mindset when you do use your voice. Think about the positive side of that. When you push past the discomfort and you use your voice, you become proud of yourself. Whether it works in your favor or not, whether you have a W or an L on it, you are still proud that you did it. Let me give you an example. I am so excited to talk about this. Over the holiday season, I had several women come to me and share about promotions they just received. Some are clients, some are friends, some are old colleagues. All of them, though, are in the sports and entertainment industry. Here's the common theme. They were all offered a promotion/raise. And the key part that made me cheer loud as hell, and I am not kidding, at one point I was in a restaurant and I screamed. What made me cheer loud as hell was that they didn't take what they were first offered. Now, let me set the stage. Now, these are private conversations, but I'm going to give you a very, very top level. Some of these women weren't asking for promotion or raise. Some had been working on getting this for, one person, like almost 4 or 5 months. Regardless, when that offer was put in front of them, they all shook their head and went real deep and used their voice to say, I'm worth more. They used their voice because they knew from their research, their time, their experience, their conversations with others that they were worth more. The most important thing is their conversations with themselves, believing that they are worth more. Now, not every single person got the exact number, the exact salary, or the exact amount of responsibility that they wanted when they went through the negotiation process. But I will tell you this. Every single person told me that I used my voice and advocated for myself. They were so proud. I may have shed a little tear here, but some of them told me, I thought of you when I was doing this. I had you in my head because you talk so much about advocating for yourself, using your voice, going after what you want. Oh, I got the chills. That brings me joy. And I'm so proud of what all of them accomplished. Number 3 is all about momentum. So let me get back on track here. The good energy they created by stepping outside of their comfort zone will 100% impact future moves that they make. I guarantee you, these women will have incredible years in 2022. There is going to be a momentum behind them. So my recommendation to you, start your momentum now. Come on, friends, let's do this together. The 4th reason you should use your voice in 2022 is it's contagious. Imagine a world where all of the women in the sports and entertainment industry always used their voices. Always. I mean, regardless of what the outcome might be, regardless if you were the only one in the room with that opinion, regardless if you're the only woman or minority in the room, regardless if you were afraid, uncomfortable, or feeling a little unsure of yourself. You see, what happens is when other women see you out there using your voice, you unknowingly empower them to do the same. Maybe you do realize that's happening. You unknowingly open doors for them. You almost give them permission. No one needs permission to use their voice, but this unspoken thing happens when they see you doing what they want to do, being exactly how they want to be. You give them permission to do the same. You are setting an example for all women to speak up, use our voice, and show up every single time, even when it's difficult. So if you can take one thing away from this episode, know that you have the power to empower other women in our industry by using your voice. Before I let you go, I want to tell you 3 things to help you when it comes to using your voice. Because we all talk about how important it is. At the end of the day, it is hard. So let me give you a few tips, just quick 3. First, preparation. Do your homework. What is it that you're using your voice for? Make sure you're prepared. You can leverage your allies, counterparts, mentors, coaches, that's me, or Google. Hey, Google never fails when you use a good trusted source. Control what you can control. Go into any situations that you can by being prepared. If you know something's coming up, prepare for it. Practice. I want you to say what you want to say out loud. Rehearse in a mirror, rehearse on Zoom. Get comfortable with the words that are coming out of your mouth. Now, sometimes you don't have the luxury of practicing because it's on the fly, but when you do practice, it will impact your capabilities. It will improve your capabilities for when you do have to go on the fly. Does that make sense? That's a question I ask a lot of times because I go down a rabbit hole, but practice, practice, practice. And then when it's showtime, baby, you will be ready, even if it's on the fly. All right, push yourself. Last one. If you are someone who struggles with using or even finding your voice, first remember you are not alone. It is a muscle that you need to commit. Keyword here is commit to working on. So commit to yourself that you will push out of your comfort zone at least once a week to make sure you're using your voice. And if you crushed it last year and were using your voice all of the time last year and you want to improve, commit to that self-improvement. Commit to writing things down once a month and just checking in to see how you're doing and how you're consistently growing. All right, Game of Thrones listeners, as always, thank you for sharing some of your time with me today. I appreciate you. I know there's a lot of different things you can choose to do, and I am so honored that you're here. If you are looking for some support as you kick off your 2022, don't forget, I opened up 2 more spots for my year in review in 2022 vision strategy session. This session is designed to ensure you step into 2022 with a strategic plan to absolutely crush your career goals. So there is a link in the bio. Just scroll down. It says schedule a time to chat with Jahaan, totally free. What we can do is chat, see if it's the right fit. See if this is the program for you. It's a 1-session, 75-minute program. And there's some pre-work, there's some in-session work, and then there's some post-work. And then you get access to me for 30 days after, which I love to do. As you implement things, I will be there for you. So if you are interested in that, just set up a time to talk and we can see if it's the right fit. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, again, thank you for spending some time with me, and I will talk to you all next week.